Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jordan Malik.
And I'm Zach Mahabir.
And this is another episode of Red Storm Arcade. Leading off, we have a story revolving Spider-Man from PlayStation Blog.
That's right. From James Stevenson, the community director of Insomniac Games, he quoted, "You will all have been waiting for it for a long time. We've got emails, phone calls, tweets, Instagram posts, and impassioned pleas. You want to know when Marvel's Spider-Man will be finally in your hands. Everyone here at Insomniac Games is thrilled to announce that Marvel's Spider-Man will launch on Friday, September 7th, 2018, exclusively for the PlayStation 4 system. It's been an incredible experience for us to work the last few years working on this game, from getting to create our own unique universe and story for our favorite superhero to working with talented collaborators at PlayStation and Marvel Games, to developing relationships with the Spider-Man and Marvel fan communities. Hashtag Spidey Squad represent. It's been an amazing journey thus far." So now we have our release date for the new Spider-Man game.
Yes, which I think looks incredible. I'm still a little skeptical of the gameplay just because they haven't shown that much. You can't trust the E3 demos because they're very scripted.
Yeah.
They're incredibly scripted. You can see that as you watch the one from this latest E3 where there's Mr. Negative and all that stuff, all the QuickTime events and whatnot. But it looks beautiful, and I have faith in Insomniac. They don't make bad games.
They don't make bad games, but and they're doing an awful lot with this in comparison to other Spider-Man games, because they have you saw those fast travel clips.
Yes.
It goes down to the subway and does a little subway intermission. I was like, if that makes it into the game, it's going to be great. It's just about seeing all this in the game. And another big thing is, anytime you make a Spider-Man game or anything with one of these big superhero IPs like Batman, of course, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like those big party games, it's going to get stacked up to everything else. So all this has to do is just perform well on its own. It has to stray a bit from what everything else was, like Web of Shadows and all that, because otherwise it's going to get drowned in comparison. I
think Insomniac Games is going to do that because they always have they have a very unique style, they have their own style to making games. They have their own very unique humor, which I love. I guarantee you we're going to see some Sunset Overdrive and Ratchet and Clank references, because they always sneak them in any way possible. They just have their own style, and I'm really excited to see what they do with something that is kind of in the middle for what they've done, because they started with this very kid-friendly Ratchet and Clank, which was also, it had its innuendos, The titles were Size Matters, Going Commando, Full Frontal Assault. Then they go to something a little bit more mature with the whole punk rock aesthetic to Sunset Overdrive. Now there's something more in the middle where it gets to both audiences.
Yes, and it's good that you talk about aesthetics. This game looks beautiful. This game looks really good. They didn't go too far in any one direction and making it too cartoony or too real life, but they just tried to give it an authentic feel. They focused on making a very authentic New York experience, and it does feel like that. There's definitely differences, and as from what I've seen, you can't pick apart too many places, but it feels like a city, like a metro area, and the lighting is beautiful. The NPCs and the non-interactive places look really good. I like the way this looks. Insomniac's done a good job so far.
And I'm very excited to be exploring the open world, seeing how realistic it is, because obviously us being in New York, it'd be really cool to be able to pick out some parts of Queens or Manhattan or Brooklyn that we recognize. I'm hoping that they go that far.
That's my biggest thing. It's just got to look like New York. It's just got to feel like New York.
I think they'll do a good job with that. Our second story of the day via Polygon's Michael McWhirter. After the commercial success of Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, Activision is bringing back another classic PlayStation-era character, Spyro the Dragon. Spyro Reignited Trilogy is coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on September 21st, Activision announced today. The collection will include the first 3 games in the series, Spyro the Dragon, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, and Spyro Year of the Dragon, in remastered form. Those 3 games were originally developed by Insomniac Games, which has moved on from Ratchet and Clank and is developing this year's Spider-Man for PS4. So, segue from Insomniac to their former IP.
And Activision.
Yes,
now we're
and
talking about.
Activision now, and
Yeah.
it is being developed by a smaller studio called Toys for Bob. Which yeah, their biggest thing was Skylanders.
Yeah, they get a lot of good IPs sent to them.
Yeah.
People seem to have a lot. There's a small team over there, and maybe that's why it's a small company. It's pretty. I'm not gonna say they do things cheaply, but it's not a lot to get them to do these IPs. We were talking about this for a couple of days. My initial analysis is like a great IP to choose.
Yes.
Spyro has a lot of replay value, and this is a great opportunity to introduce it into a new gaming market. It's a different world now, gaming.
Oh, yeah.
These are not the type of games that even come out. Crash and Spyro and Ratchet and all those guys, they couldn't, if they were new IPs, it wouldn't be as good right now. They wouldn't sell.
It just would blend in because the reason that they stuck out so much was that they were so innovative.
Of course.
And they've set things up for how they are now.
Yes, and so bringing that stuff back is really good. What I've heard, though, from a few people is that it's a very mixed reaction to the aesthetic because it's a point-for-point remaster. There's no new assets, but every asset's been re-rendered or redrawn. I've heard things like it's beautiful and polished, and I've heard things like it's empty and void.
Yeah.
You know? What do you think?
I feel I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I can't make up my mind because there are some bits where I'm like, it doesn't look bad, but it looks like, the thing is it looks better than the original, so I'm like, I can't be too mad, but I know it should look better.
I think I'm
And
somewhere
it's
there.
disappointing because Spyro was one of my first games growing up. I was very big on 3D platforms. For me, growing up, it was Mario 64, Ratchet and Clank, and Spyro. I think Ripto's Rage was the one that I played. And I felt like I loved it, and it's kind of disappointing to see something that I'm not totally in love with.
Yeah.
And it kind of stinks that they gave it to this developer who, like, it seems like they're the reason. It's like Toys for Bob is kind of the reason, because they could have given it to a studio with much better history. Because Toys for Bob has done a lot of stuff since like the 90s. And they haven't really done anything that I would consider a real game since the 90s, and then except for one little blip, which was Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam, which was the Wii game with
it was one of the worst Tony Hawks in the if not the worst.
A lot of people consider it the worst, and it's really disappointing that this is a studio that has been centered around making like 101 Dalmatians games, like that kind of stuff, where it's like...
They're the company you call up to take your already established IP and make a game.
Yeah.
It's not make a great game. It's not make a horrible game. It's a game. It plays. When I saw the trailer for the first time, I thought to myself, this looks really pretty.
Yeah.
Because it does look pretty, and it's very bright and very vibrant. My problem with it is as I kept looking at it, I started looking, I stopped looking directly in front of me, and I started really trying to take in all the shots. And I was like, you see, Spyro's okay because it was a PS1 game, so you can't render a lot of stuff. When you render up and you're making your 3D, HD, resed up remaster.
Yeah, ready for 4K now.
You have to fill in all the empty gaps. So when I look ahead to the sunrise and it's just empty, it feels empty. When it's resed down like that, it's okay. Because it's pixelated.
I never realized that's what it was. It's just it feels so void.
There's nothing there.
It feels void.
Yeah.
And now that I'm very happy that you pointed that out, because now it makes sense to me why it didn't feel right.
And Toys for Bob, like, nothing against them, but Downhill Jam was the worst one to date.
Yeah.
And then they came out with Ride, which is an Activision game. So to me, this whole project is. I get it. I get what they're trying to do. You know, like it feels like a little less than a cash grab because they're committing to it being good.
Yeah.
I just don't know that they invested enough to make these games as good as they should be.
I completely agree.
All right. So we're gonna move on to our third and final story. Via Ryan Craddock of Nintendo Life. According to a report from Florida TV station WRED-TV, Universal Studios is expected to launch a Pokémon Park as soon as 2020. The information comes from the news channel's news anchor, Jamie Holmes, who along with theme park university blogger Josh Young, has spoken to numerous sources inside the company who say Pokemon is indeed coming to Universal Orlando. This new Pokemon Dreamland is expected to be added to the Kids Zone section alongside Woody Woodpecker and Barney. Originally, that particular area was planned to become a home to the new Mario Kart and Donkey Kong roller coasters, but these will apparently now join part of a larger Nintendo-themed park, which is set to be built on Universal's latest land purchase near Kirkman Avenue. This is a lot of news at once.
It is.
I did not know any of this information.
So it goes the story really starts way back at the Tokyo Olympics. During it was either the opening or closing ceremony. That is when Tokyo announced that Universal Studios Japan is going to get a Super Nintendo Land.
It was during 2016. It was in London.
It was during London, and to announce
they ran the tapes for 2020. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. And that is when the Japan park is going to be finished, is expected 2020.
Wow.
Yes, and then they're trying to also bring sprinkles of Nintendo to the Hollywood park and the Florida park. Mm-hmm. And the first thing, though, that the Florida park is going to get is Pokemon, which I think is a very good choice. I'm very, very excited and happy that this is becoming a trend.
It's a better choice to Mario Kart and Donkey Kong. It's a good move.
Yes, because I think that in a whole Nintendo land, that like Mario Kart and Donkey Kong can work as 1 and 2 rides, not as a full thing. I don't think that. No. I think Mushroom Kingdom could work as a fully fleshed idea.
But you need a park for that.
You need a park, and I feel like a full Nintendo-themed park is going to be crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's a little interesting to see how Universal has been making these strides to try and take over from Disney World. And it's interesting because they're still missing like Epcot and that kind of leisurely kind of aspect to it. Whereas for Disney World, you don't have to go on rides. You could just leisure. Like I, for one, can't do roller coasters. Mm-hmm. So like Epcot and Animal Safari or Animal Kingdom are my 2 favorite parks of Disney World.
Well, what I think that Disney does is they create a big experience for you.
Yes.
Disney is the park. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
You don't go and you're like, I'm going to go on one ride and then one restaurant and then leave. You're there for everything. What Universal does, and I've been a couple times, and you hear it as you're going along the park, is you will hear, well, we got to do this, and this, and it's never 1 or 2 things. It's a list of things.
Yeah.
But they create these isolated experiences. Like Twister is a 20-minute ride, and it is worth going to the park. Like, it is a big experience.
Yeah.
Nick Studios, back when they had open, was a whole that was half your day, and it was the best. And they had a bunch of rides like that. So bringing this Pokemon Park into that's like another isolated experience. It's an hour and a half of your time, and it will be worth the price of admission.
Oh, yeah.
When you build, they want to build this library of stuff to go along with the movies and the TV shows. They want to build video games too. It's smart. I like it, and I don't think they want to do what Disney's doing. I think they want to have a different experience. Yeah. They want to relate to the Universal audience as opposed to being like people that would love Disney stuff. Because when you do that, you don't get the casual viewer. You just get the diehards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very excited. I know that I've talked with some of my friends from back home. Like when he's gonna go to the Japan one when that opens up, which I'm jealous of. He's got the money to do that.
Yeah.
But I can't wait for this to be in Florida because then you tie that in with Disney World when Toy Story, the Toy Story park's going to be finished.
Right.
And they also have another one, which I can't remember off the top of my head, that's also going to be finished by 2020. Wow. Orlando is becoming an amazing place to vacate. Like, it's already amazing, but it's somehow even getting even better.
I had no idea when this... Maybe it's from my perspective, I thought that these theme parks took, like, a bit of a dive. Not a big dive, but, like, the interest went down, and apparently it's, like, bigger than ever. Like, people... The money is obviously getting invested to it. People must keep going.
It was kind of like a mix where like enthusiasm died, but I don't think park attendance ever dropped.
Interesting.
Because I think it was still just like, oh, we're going to Disney World.
We're going to the park.
Like, we're going to Universal. Like, there wasn't the same enthusiasm behind it. And now that's kind of getting rekindled because they're refreshing everything, but making good choices. Replacing the Matterhorn with a Frozen ride wasn't the most enthusiastic thing in my opinion.
It was rough. It was a bad.
Yeah, that was like.
People thought it was a bad move.
Yes, and there have been a continuation of these moves by both sides, and like, but lately they've kind of been turning the corner, and it's really interesting. I'm very excited.
You know, I think another thing that is like when you go to a theme park, when you go to an amusement park, we're at a point now where entertainment is so diverse. You can't just give people fast rides. Like the King of Ka era is over. Because remember when we were growing up. King of Ka opened up in Jersey.
Yeah.
Everyone I never went. I will never go. That thing is terrifying. But now, people want these experiences. They want this diversification. That's why, like Harry Potter world, it revolutionized.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It revolutionized the way we look at this.
When I go on those kinds of rides, there's the one ride I think is the best ride in Universal and Disney World, respectively. They are both 4D rides. The one is the Harry Potter, which is a mix. And I don't know how they pull these off. But the one in Disney World, which is brand new, it's the Avatar Flight of the Banshee. I got to go on that like the day after opening day. Because I was there for it was a complete accident too. It was pure luck. Like we were just going for my mom's birthday and I was like, yeah, like Pandora's opening. Like, what? Yeah, it was very lucky. But it was, like these 4D rides, I just don't know how they pull them off from like a technical standpoint, and it fascinates me. And I think it's mixing them with video games is perfect because now the spectrum of what rides can do is bigger than ever. And now you can take these properties like video games and do what before was never been able to do, only possible in video games.
And I'm just excited to see the approach they take with it. Is because you have to build a tone. What they did with Harry Potter World was very, very smart because they didn't try to make it like this over the top. It's
awesome walking through it.
Like they didn't try to change the heart of Harry Potter with putting everything in. Like it all felt very real. It all looks real. The restaurants and all the eating places are very well maintained.
Yeah.
I wonder how they're going to translate that to something like Pokemon, because it's not just a video game. It's an entire metaverse that's going on here. It's an entire universe that's in this canon.
Yeah, like there's going to have to be like Poke Shops. There's going to have to be at least one Poke Health Center.
That's what I say. You have to get a bunch of Nurse Joys and Officer Jennies.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be crazy, but I'm very excited and I can't wait to see what comes more because I probably won't be able to go for a while.
It's been a minute since I've been to Florida, so I mean, hey, this is I'll buy my ticket when it's open. I'll do it.
Alrighty. That's all that we have for you on this episode of Red Storm Arcade. I'm Jordan Malik.
And I'm Zach Mahabir.
And we'll see you next time.